Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Divesoft TV. This is our live stream show, and I'm your host, Joe Bosques. Welcome to our special series on close calls, where we go through the book Close Calls, and we bring divers in from the stories, and they share their stories. So it's going to be an exciting episode where we're going to talk a lot about lessons learned. And good to see everyone. Be sure to like, share, and comment below if you guys have any questions. So I've got this week, I have Dr. Frauke Tillmans from Divers Alert Network, and I have Michael Menduno joining us today. So see if we can pipe them in. So Frauke is the research. Hey, Frauke, how you doing?
Hey, Joe. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. Hey, Michael.
Hi there.
All right. So Frauke is the research director at Divers Alert Network. And Michael Menduno is a research and technologist and editor-in-chief of GOE's In-Depth magazine. So super happy to have you guys on today.
Really good to be here. Yeah.
It's I know we've kind of changed our mode where we do we've been doing the live streams once a month. So it's good to be kind of talking online with everyone again.
Sure is.
Yeah. So today's episode is we're going to be kind of focusing a little bit on, we're going to be sharing your guys' story, where the kind of what I really like about the kind of common themes between y'all's stories is the fact that they can really happen to anyone. It's not like an extreme dive or a very, very technical advanced dives. It's very much like, we're trying out new equipment. We're going and diving at a local area. We're going and diving at a place that's, pretty accessible that a lot of people go to. And, it's kind of a lot of like where we have a little bit of peer pressure combined with, kind of questioning like a little bit about ourselves and kind of pushing the limits a little bit. And so it's a really good set of stories. So I wanted to share Frauke's story first. If you don't mind kind of diving in and telling us your story from Close Calls.
Sure thing. Yeah, it was a bit of a painful one to write that up. And I mean, I had been thinking about it for a while, and it really isn't a close call as in a close call, but it could have gotten a close call at any point in time. And that was kind of what made me think afterwards. So the story was I had just gotten a new dry suit. That was the first time I actually invested in a custom-made suit that was shipped to me by the manufacturer. I was super excited, and I need to get this. I need to get this in the water. And going against everything I believe in, with training things in like calm waters and with no distraction and only one thing at a time, I decided, oh, we can do that ice dive. Okay, let's do it. So 2 weeks after I got that suit, good friend of mine calls me up and says, want to dive that lake? I said, oh yeah, I haven't been. That's awesome. So I went with my new suit and my new 3-finger gloves that came with the suit. And we got to the dive site and everything was nice. It was a nice sunny day. The team, it's a public safety team that can train at that location and no one else can. So I was super excited to be part of that, but I hadn't trained with that team before, nowhere. So everyone was new except my dive buddy. I knew him. And so it was a new location, a new team, a new suit, and new 3-finger gloves. And now comes the, oh, by the way, you need to dive a full face mask. And I'm like, yeah, no issue at all.
You can start to really see how things start kind of stacking, the new suit, new gloves, I'm sure older undergarments, and any one of those things could be enough on a new dive.
So I asked, what system do you dive? And they had, I want to say the Ocean Reef masks, and I had only trained with the Interspiro and these old Scuba Pro latex masks that look really fetish. But I said, yeah, that's going to be fine. It's all good. So I get into all of that, and everyone is busy and plugging away and we pop the hole in the ice, and we go through all the line signals, and we're finally in the water with everything. I've checked everything. I feel good. And we go dive, and the water, when the water column gets to here, and it's so, and I get underwater, and everything that is when I usually take that sanity breath, and okay, we're going to do this now. And it's like, man, that's a lot of firsts. That's really not that smart,
Right.
is it? So
that's when you start thinking things get quiet.
right. So I sit there, and I'm like, okay, I've never been in this suit before. What if my buoyancy just goes to crap? I haven't looked at my weights again. Lucky they were okay. My buddy was a bit older. If anything happens to him, if I have to drag him out, how the fork do I do that? So all of that gets into my head and say, okay, what if this and what if that and what? Oh my. So obviously I don't thumb the dive because I wanted to do the dive.
Right.
And we get to a third of our gas supply. I signal, let's turn it, let's go. And it was beautiful. It was a really beautiful dive. After I had gotten my breathing under control and had put aside all those issues that might arise. I had a really good time until I signaled my buddy, let's turn it. And I want to signal surface that we are going to turn it. It was not communication, so not voice communication, just line signals. So I want to signal them, and the first signal I give goes into nothing. I'm like, oh, this is great. So I'm pulling in a bit of line, and I'm pulling in almost 15 meters of line, and I have those in my hand, and I finally get a connection. I'm like, oh shit, how did this happen? Was I supposed to? No, that's not the way it should work. So we're making our way back, and the surface support team doesn't take in the line. So I keep collecting line, and I keep
so it's building and building.
And I have this huge pack of line in my hand, and I'm like, man, this is not how I've pictured this dive. And my buddy gets more worried too. And he's like, what the why let it loose, they will get it. No, they won't. So we get to I was really relieved when I saw that hole again, that triangle there, and my head popped out, and before my head or the mask popped out, I had the full package of line and just threw it on the ice.
Heavy, yeah.
And I got out, and I looked at the line tender, who wasn't the one that it wasn't the face I had looked in before. So I'm like,
wow.
Who are you? And the dive safety officer apparently saw that my confusion and she's not happy. So I learned in the next 5 minutes that the line tender had changed in between in the operation. And another first, so it was the third day she was training with the team, but she had never had hands on a line before.
Oh, wow.
So another one where I thought, could have gone wrong, really, but didn't. Great. But I got out, and we had a good time. We talked about it. I talked about it with my buddy. I talked about it with the new tender, with the dive safety officer. And on the way back, I was like, man, that was just too much. There's too many things. And and I was, if anything, I was annoyed with myself that I didn't catch any of that in time to actually make the smart move and say, yeah, I'm not doing this today. Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely call that a close call, because there's so many factors, so many new factors on you to handle an emergency,
Right.
And then, you had another factor that went wrong with the team, with the surface support, and, it's just, it very much a close call, I think, on that. And
if you look at the Swiss cheese model, I'm
Uh-huh.
really happy none of those holes aligned.
Right.
Really
The
happy.
diving god smiled upon you that day. Yes.
might have been cream cheese. I don't know. It wasn't Swiss. Yeah.
Oh God.
It's and so kind of, you know, what would you do in order to, like, so what was kind of a lesson that you learned on, like, what to do in order to prevent something, you know, another, you know, near miss incident happening again?
So pertaining to exactly this story, I think the
Mm-hmm.
main lesson I took away is don't put more than one new thing on your list per dive. And if
Mm-hmm.
it is an extreme environment, and yeah, it was calm, but it was still overhead. So
Still overhead.
you don't try new gear in overhead. It's just you don't. I shouldn't. I know that now, and I kind of knew that before, but the opportunity was there, so I took it. And yeah, in hindsight, that was maybe next time you don't do that.
And it's interesting how tempting it is to do that, especially if you know, for example, I know here in Florida, there's like, oh, there's a little cave right here. I've spent all my time in there. Like, I'll just, you know, I need to try out my new dry suit. I can't go to the pool, so I'm gonna go jump in this cave and no problem. And how easy, where it's like one justification can lead to another, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a pickle.
Yeah, I
Right,
cannot agree
right.
more.
Right. And so it's, yeah, I think that's a, you know, kind of a great advice is only do one new thing at a time,
Yeah.
and don't try new things in any overhead.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so no matter how tempting. Well, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this story. And
It was a
so
good one.
Michael, let's jump into your tale.
Yeah. So I have a story. It's from a couple years ago. I had come up back to cave country to finish my full cave recertification. It had been a bunch of years, so I thought, hey, I'll go through a cave class, which was great. So I came back from there on my way home to stop at the Keys and go do a day of diving with a friend of mine who was a recreational diving instructor. We were diving on the Spiegel Grove. And of course, I had all my cave gear. That's all I had. The water was warm, but I wore my dry suit with a little underwear and my doubles, etc. Though I had rented doubles. I had rented aluminum 80 doubles.
Mm-hmm.
So we did the first dive. It was great. Brisk current. It's about 33 meters to the deck. We did about a 26, 27-minute dive, safety stop, all good. Came up, and I noticed, I had burned about a little less than half my gas. So I basically had an aluminum 80 left. We're going to go for a second dive. And my gut feeling just went, that's not much gas, And I had noticed on the first dive, too, I should say, that those aluminum 80s, I had been diving 15 and 18-liter cylinders all week.
Yeah.
So
Or
the
like
11-liter
104s,
aluminum
120s.
80s, like, man, they go so fast, So anyway, so I was feeling, I probably should sit it out, but I had self-induced peer pressure. This first time I had dived with this person, we just had made one dive. I was just there for the day, so that was a factor. And I thought, hey, it's a recreational dive, no biggie. We're just going to swim around, and when we're low on gas, come up. No big deal. So anyway, so I remember she jumped in first. As I was making my way to jump in, the dive master said, do not let go of the line, big current. So I jump in, and immediately my fin pops off. It stayed on because I had my strap, the spring, it stayed on my ankle, but the fin was going, and this was like a flagpole diving. Literally, we were like this. If you
You're
turn
just
your
hanging
mask
on.
sideways, it started, So we started down, and there was a tech team decompressing at 6 meters. So we literally had to climb over them because they weren't moving, and we couldn't let go of the line. So, we made our way down to the wreck, got there. It was a little calmer, but still blowing. Put on my fin, and I looked at my gas, and I had like 900 PSI, so 55 bar or something like that. And it was like,
And where's the deck of the ship?
so it's
How deep?
100 feet. They're a little over
It's at
100 feet, 33 meters. So I thought, shit, well, let's just swim around the deck for a minute, and then we'll call the dive, right? So my partner takes off, and we start to swim, and there's an entrance to the wreck, a door, and she starts going for the door, and I go, no, holy shit, no, don't go for the door. We had gone in there.
Yeah, there's a line. No.
We had gone in there the first dive, so I sort of remember there's a little room, and it kind of comes out, and so I had this moment. Shit, I'm low on gas at this point. We need to turn. What do I do? Turn or go after her? And fortunately, I decided to go after her and chase her down, and that probably saved my life. So I flabbed my light, no response. So I kick my ass off, grab her fin, and go, up, call the dive. So we're swimming back, and it's like, God, this is much longer than I remember. And then suddenly I go, and it's like it's hard to suck. And I have this, it's like, holy shit. And I look at my gauge, and I got about 300 PSI, but it's not sucking. And there's the line. I grab the line just as my gas ends. And I had this really clear existential moment of calm, like, holy shit, I can't breathe water. I could die here. Fortunately, my partner was right there, out of air. She just had recreational gear. So I grabbed her octopus, was on the inflator, an octopus, and we made our way up the line with the line between us, and again, ripping current. And I was like, I was worried, just think buoyancy, what happened if we got blown off?
Yeah, you start thinking about everything. You start thinking about like, okay, now I've got empty aluminum 80s. It's almost like balloons. I'm in a dry suit.
Right.
How much gas does she have? Like, is she calm? Is she worried about me? Like,
right.
Do we need to do our safety stop? Whatnot?
I mean, her eyes were big when I went like this, but she was like, I'm here. Don't worry. I got you. And we just hung and went up. She stopped for a safety stop. At that point, it's like, pardon me, bleep, the safety stop. I want to get out of here. And I was like totally embarrassed. I get on the surface, and the dive master said, are you okay? I went, no, I'm not okay. Someone jumped in, took off my fins. I got back on board. And then it turned out I had a little gas left. I mean, there was, out of the pressure, there was a little gas, but I was totally embarrassed. And, like 2 nights later, I woke up like in a cold sweat thinking, oh my God, that could have been it, easily it, so it was a very sobering, I just kept thinking tech divers don't run out of gas,
right.
Like I did. So interestingly, because, I'm a known person in the diving industry, like within an hour, people in cave country already knew that this had happened.
You're out on the ocean on the boat, and you start getting phone calls. How did this happen so quick?
I got a call from my instructor, like, is everything okay? It's like, no. Yeah. And then the interesting thing, so I had finished my cert. I had gotten a CDS certification. And I was also supposed to get another agency certification, for this course, and it didn't come. And about a month later, I called the instructor and said, I never got my card. And he goes, well, he said, yeah, we thought about it after your class, decided you need more work, so it was like shame, embarrassment.
Yeah, so, it's just like, oh my God.
Talking about just culture or lack thereof, so yeah, so it was very sobering. And what really struck me in retrospect, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes: complacency, not good communications, not thinking about all the things I learned in my cave class about maintaining minimum gas.
Right.
But the thing was just how quickly shit can happen when you're in the accident funnel. It was kind of like Frauke's example of all these firsts. Well, one goes, and then boom, 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 boom. And so you start with something small, and suddenly, and that's kind of what happened. Like all these things came into effect, and I was lucky to live. So yeah, thanks to a good partner.
I mean, it's one thing that goes like, okay, everything's okay, and then all of a sudden everything's really bad.
Really bad. Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't, slowly progress up to it just all of a sudden, and it's, where did it start? It didn't start when you were making your way on the upline. Could it have started when you realized how much work it took down to get at the bottom?
Right, exactly.
And the deck's at 100 feet. The gas is, and it's likely that when we're going through like you just finished through training, you're used to like much larger cylinders, and then you're like, man, the needle is moving at a different pace. And
Right. And as you had said in the beginning, if this had been a big burly tech dive, I would have been, paying super attention.
Right.
But I was complacent. It's like, it's a recreational dive, no big deal. It's like, we'll just go swim around and come up. It's like, so.
And yeah, like Frauke, like you asked earlier, well, did you do it again? It's
right.
It's the whole point is how we kind of learn from it, and combined with like there's a lot of shame and like embarrassment. We don't want to talk about it. And I mean, I know I've gone through scenarios where like at NASA, like I ran out of gas during the middle of a working dive, and because we're so frequently changing out tanks whenever we're like working on a project. There were so many time pressures. It's like, okay, we have to get this done by, we have 10 minutes. We have to get it done. And we're breathing with doubles, with a full face mask, and just swimming our butts off. And, it's so easy to burn through gas.
Yeah.
And especially when you're focused on one thing, like focused on getting to the top of the boat deck, or focus on your buddy, or focused on a job.
Yeah.
And so like Frauke at Divers Alert Network, have you seen kind of where people discuss incidences like this or close calls?
So we do have a diving incident reporting system, and we have had that for a long time. We've revamped that recently, and if you, we can probably put that in the comments after we're done here. But if you go to that incident reporting system, you can report an incident. There's now parts in there that will ask for contributing factors, or what you think like prompted that things went wrong. And it doesn't necessarily have, I mean, the worst ones we get are the fatalities, but there's a lot of the actual, I didn't connect my BC hose, or I jumped in the water without fins, or things like that, where you're like, I can't say that hasn't happened to me before. The question is, how have I responded to that, and has it happened again since? And, what we do here is we follow up on all those incidents. We contact the person. They are anonymized, so we know who the person is. We can reach out and ask questions and try to get more answers. But when we publish those, and we do that on the website and in the Alert Diver too, no one knows where the boat was, which operation it was, what the name of the diver was. So we try to keep that as limited as possible, so people don't fear to actually report an incident, because that is a lot, especially Michael said it, being a celebrity in the diving community, and I don't count myself as that, but yes, people will talk. And people, have you seen her going in the water? Is she actually certified? What the heck? So that does happen. So what we try is we follow up with the people. We see if they have learned anything out of it, if we can help them get more information that they might have needed to handle the situation better. And we try to publish those in Incident Insights, which are under the Safety and Prevention tab on our website.
That's great that you're going to publish. I know you publish the annual diving report, of course, with fatalities, but are you publishing them as you go, or is there a frequency, or as you go? So they'll be.
We have actually this is something that has been in the works for some time, and we had some staff changes and project changes and things, but we are trying to put an incident report out every 2 to 3 weeks. And
Wow.
as people keep sending us information, we would like to do that more frequently, like have a bi-weekly here's what happened, and that is always great discussion. I mean, we do post them on social media too whenever it fits in, and there's usually a lot of really good feedback, and there is not as much wow, that was stupid. Although it might have been. There is a lot of, yeah, I had something similar, and then people start opening up because you did.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd be curious to see how like a lot of that information is applied to maybe, helping with training or focusing on like, we're seeing like, oh, buoyancy control is like the biggest contributors to people like having a close call. And so it's, that needs to be emphasized more on other things, or, like you said, the discussions that come from that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so valuable that you're doing that, though, too, because we can all learn from fatality reports, sad as they are, but close calls happen a lot more frequently, and you can really get into the person's head, like what were they thinking? Why did this make sense at the time? So really valuable information for all divers to learn from these things. Yeah.
And that is something that if you have ever taken or are thinking about taking the human factors seminar with Gareth Locke, that is something that you start to think about how did that make sense in my head when I did it. Oh yeah, right. Of course, it was because everything was going smooth, and the people were all really nice and organized, and I didn't even think anything would be going wrong. And luckily it didn't. But yeah, getting to that point where you question your own decision making and question team communications and all those things. There's so many factors that go in. I can wholeheartedly recommend that course to anyone.
Yeah.
Whether you start with the with that micro class that he has, or take the full 10-week seminar, you won't regret it.
Not at all. And just as a shout out, Gareth is hosting a Human Factors in Diving conference in late September. If you Google it, you'll find it. And I think he's got about 30 presenters, so it'll be a great, really good event. I think important content. So yeah.
That'll be fantastic. Yeah, it's his book. Like I always talk about it, that it's, and we find that we talk about it a lot here on these live streams, is that it's so much of the pressures that outside of diving, and so many other factors that lead to an accident happening, or like you said, like a close call. And so
I mean, the bottom line is we're humans, so we make mistakes. And so we want to set things up so that when we do make mistakes, which we will, we won't die as a result, and no one else will either, right? We'll catch it and we'll live to learn the tale. Yeah. So, yeah.
And creating the culture where we can discuss things like even though like I'm curious to see if diving professionals are kind of reporting any of these close calls, and I think it'd be really cool for it to be a separate category of seeing like, okay, look, we're finding that instructors say like basic scuba instructors they're having this type of accidents happen, or type of incidences occurring to them, instead of, divers that are just diving recreationally for fun. And so, it's like maybe we need to teach people how to teach differently. And so,
well, eventually, I think this, it's going to, Gareth started this really, he was really a pioneer in bringing human factors from the aviation industry, which he came out of, to diving. And now it's been, I don't know, eight years or so. And I think it's seeping into people's consciousness and starting to get built into courses. So we take this into account while instructors are teaching the classes, that this kind of mindset and just culture, being able to talk about mistakes, etc. Really important. Yeah.
Right. And I think it really grows from diving individuals, to kind of just openly just putting themselves out there and discussing it, and then to start trends rather than depending on maybe an agency to take a foot and push on that. So if like individuals continue to talk and share stories like this, I think that'll kind of lead the industry in trending that way.
Yes. I mean, it's a little hard to do to say, oh my God, I bleeped up so bad. But it's important that we do it.
Yeah.
Especially with,
but I do think that is exactly where this book comes in, because as it says in the beginning, if it happens to them, and there you go, here.
we all have our copies.
So
get this book.
if it can happen to them, it can happen to you. So if people that might actually, I mean, I still got a position at Dan, even though I did stupid things, and I'm trying not to do so many stupid things. And I feel I need to answer to that John person in the chat. I am actually certified, and he knows.
Oh, she is certified. Okay, good.
That one there, right?
The Lionfish King.
Yeah, it looks more like the Lobster King there.
Oh yeah, the Lobster King this year.
Yeah. So I think this book was a really good start, and I know a lot of people have already bought it, and a lot more will. And I'm not sure, Michael, if you guys are planning a second edition, or if there's going to be a let's collect more and don't collect just from the leaders in the industry, but also just do an instructor special, or do an fresh open water special.
That's a really good idea.
Tell me about your class.
I could tell stories, but I won't. Not today.
Yep.
On where I question my ability as an instructor, because my student does something really stupid, or something that really doesn't make sense in my head, but apparently it made sense in his or hers.
Right.
So what did I not give them to understand that this was not the right thing to do?
Right. How did we get there? How did we get to that decision?
Yeah. What part did I play in that?
There's a couple good stories in the book too from instructors, and which even harder to admit as an instructor that you screwed up during a class and possibly endangered students. But there are a couple really good, brave souls who reported these stories in the book. So very valuable. Yeah.
Right. And I really think that I think a lot of other instructors, I know that I admire it when people share incidences. I know in the next, in a couple episodes down the road, I'm going to focus on one where, we make very easy mistakes, like, I didn't service my unit the way that I'm supposed to. And I'm, my role is like, I'm in the manufacturer's role, and I didn't take care of my gear the way I should, so it's very it's good to, I mean, we are all human, we all make mistakes, but I really admire when I see people, because the reputation is so important, especially when you do it for a living and you do need prospective students. And so it's to be able to be open about your mistakes, and that, yes, this was a close call, and like we said earlier, it's like, did we continue to run out of gas? No, so you obviously learned from it. If you kept making that mistake, though, then you get some other questions to ask.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really exciting to see how we're sharing the stories, we're having these discussions, and like Frauke, like in your story, how you shared that, don't start using new equipment in new environments, and especially in overhead environments. I think, that's like the big takeaway, and, and it was lucky that you didn't have an emergency where you had to depend on your surface support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and then in Michael's story, where you're sharing that there was a lot of other factors that, you had a dry suit, you were fighting in current, and then a different set of cylinders. And so that really changes our perspective on things, rather than just like, it's just a recreational dive. It's like, well, there's current going. You're wearing big gear. We're like a sail in the water. With with
Yep.
the 80s and the doubles, and so we're working, and it's the Spiegel's it's at depth. And
Yep.
so
I should give one more shout out. Dan has a great webinar. 13. What is it? 13 ways to run out of gas.
Yeah,
right?
13 ways to run out of gas and how not to. We recorded it yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to watch it,
worth watching.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Only 13. I imagine there's more, but
Right.
I'm not sure how they came up with 13, but yeah, they all make sense.
The number is scary enough, so it'll stay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's we're these are things that sure we talk about all the time, and it's I always see on internet forums how people are like, no, how can anyone be so stupid until it happens to you? And so it's
exactly.
It's quite likely. Well, cool. Well, you have any closing words, Frauke?
Don't use new equipment under ice for the first time. And the second is, if you have incidents that you think people can learn from, and I'm telling you, every other dive is something happens where you think, I could have thought about that before. And I'm not saying they are close calls, but one of the things that we're trying to get to, and Gareth Locke is actually a big part of that, is we need to think about what do we define as an incident. So it isn't the I almost died. It is the if this and this and this and this had gone wrong, I could have died, but I didn't. So it's really the when I talk to people and they share a story and I'm like, why didn't you report that to us? Yeah, I didn't think it was worth mentioning. It wasn't the big deal. And so, yeah, it kind of is a big deal. So yeah, if you have anything you want to share and you want to get out there, and you want you're not afraid of getting it out there, and we keep it anonymous once we or de-identified once we have it on the site. So just feel free. We're not the scuba police. We're often pictured at those, but we're not. We're just also humans.
Right. It's I encourage everyone to go take a look on there. I know I'll go take a look. I probably got some writing to do.
Right. Yeah.
But it's really great. Awesome. So and Michael?
Listen to your gut for sure. Share your stories, very important. Go check out the stories that are out there and share them. And if you haven't gotten it, get a copy of Close Calls. It's really eye-opening and mind-expanding. So yeah.
Right. It's a lot. It's a lot of stories, and so some of them are it's a longer read than others, but they're all all really good little lessons and whatnot. So definitely encourage everyone. Well, great. Well, thank you so much again for joining me on this live stream this week, and thanks to everyone that tuned in on this week's episode. Be sure to like, share, and comment below. You don't have to share a close call, but you can feel free to leave a comment or whatnot and say hello.
Yeah.
So, and thanks to everyone. And we'll see you again next week on Thursdays for Divesoft TV. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye for now.